What's going up, YouTube? Welcome to another edition of Tips on the Beat with D.Royul, where I, D.Royul, will be making a beat, and I'm going to give you 5 tips, hopefully to give you some brand new insight into making music in your own life. I'm officially back from being on tour in Switzerland with the Glory Gospel Singers. If you want to see a little bit of what that looked like, in the top right-hand corner of this video, it's going to be a link to the recap video I posted before this one, but we are back here, and we're back with the music. And seeing as I'm in such a good mood right now, I mean, truthfully, I'm always in a pretty good mood, but I'm really feeling good today, so we're making a beat that was a bit happy. It's very upbeat, uplifting, and stuff like that. So we're going to look into ways how we make a beat that is uplifting and is charging with energy to make you smile and feel glad about the day. Sun shining, birds chirping, and all that stuff. So let's just jump right into it and see how it all came together. Alright everybody, tip number 1. Major chords keep a song happy. Now you're going to have to do a little background check on what makes a major chord on your own, but that's essentially what makes songs sound uplifting and nice. What's called a minor chord, a lot of those make songs feel sad or depressing or dark. But if you put a lot of major chords in the song, it's going to feel uplifting, it's going to feel like the sun is shining, birds are chirping, and all that kind of stuff. So remember, major chords keep a song happy. Alright everybody, tip number 2 is try using the same notes but on a different instrument, and maybe even transpose it to a lower or higher register as well. Essentially what you're doing is you're bringing diversity into your track without really changing anything. If you really like how chord progression or the way a melody is going and you really want to keep that, if you keep it on the same instrument and it goes throughout the entire thing, your listeners get bored, listeners' fatigue sets in, and their mind starts to zone out. But if you use that same melody and you change up instruments, orchestras do this very often. If you listen to composers of full orchestras, where the violins might do the same thing than the brass section, and maybe the timpani or something like that. But it's using the same melody line or the same whatever you were playing and changing up the instruments. It diversifies your track without having to actually change any of the notes that you're doing. Alright, tip number 3 is dissect and inspect your recordings if necessary. Now, what I just did was essentially what I'm going to use for my main chord progression, but I've been listening to it for a bit and I think I want to adjust something to it. So I'm going to go inside now and edit what I've already recorded. Now, as you can hear right now, this is the original recording that I did, and you can see all the notes that I played on this. But the more and more I listen to it, I think it's just a little too busy. So what I've done is I went into the next portion I copied and pasted over, and I started deleting some of my notes. And this is how it sounds. Now in comparison to the other one. By taking out some of the notes, it gives more space in the track now It's not really undoing anything I recorded, so to speak. It's the same exact chords, and all the changes melodically are still there. But all the filler in between I took out so that the actual chord progression or that part of the song doesn't sound so cluttered. And I like this. Tip number 4, guys. Tempo choice is a big factor into how the song feels. I chose 95 BPM for this song. So it's got a nice little bounce to it, and especially with the major chords, now it's really coming together as a happy type of song, you know? You can imagine walking down the street, nodding head side to side to it. I mean, whether that's corny or not, that's what you can imagine. And that kind of a thing, when you're looking into the feel of the song, look into how fast or slow you want the song. Really take time in making sure it's right where you want it. Because you can build all the major minor chords, all the melody around it. If it's not going at a pace that you want, it's not going to naturally give the emotion or the feel that you're trying to get. Because the how fast or how slow or the count of it really does a lot to drawing actual listener into the track of how fast or how slow they're nodding their head along. And that plays a lot into how a person connects with the song. All right, now, tip number 5 is something that I started doing about a year ago. When you create a song and you're making sounds that you like, create your own drum kits. Start bouncing out the samples or the kick drums or the snares or the hi-hats, crashes that you've been creating so that they can be reused in other songs that you may be trying to emulate that same sound. So I'm going to show you a few of the things that I've made using this actual song. Now for my kick drum for this song, specifically for the part where the extra kick drum and the extra crash come in, here is what I've done with the drum sound. I put down the dB around the 540 hertz area, very large Q form. I have a limiter on it of not too much, but extra gain of 1.5. This compressor has a threshold -10, a very high ratio, so it's limiting the sound. And what it comes to is this kick that I've got here. And it makes that sound, so I bounced it out as its own waveform so I can come back to it. Now what I've done for the snare is I have in the minimal hip hop kit, there's already a snare that's going on. Ooh, yeah. You have that. And I opened up Ultra Beat and I added another electric snare on top of it. And what I did was I liked how that sounded, so I bounced out a waveform of those two, and it sounds like that sound. So whenever I want that sound, I now have a waveform where I can just plug it into battery at any moment I want. Let's see, I'll go to battery right here and I can show you. And now I'll pull up that snap, that clap I just made, drag it in here. Let me unmute the track. How about that? So here and of course, there's a few other things on it because I have something going on that track level, but I just dragged These two snares, since it's now a waveform, I can put it into any other type of VST that I want. VST, virtual instrument. There you have it. Another episode of Tips on the Beat is in the books. And let's go over the 5 things I talked about in this episode. Number 1, major chords make a song sound happy. It's a very basic chord structure, and the 3 notes that are in it are very nice to listen to. They're nice to hear. Because they're nice to hear, it gives you a good feeling. So if you're thinking of a happy song or happy chord structure, make sure you're using a handful of major chords in them. Number 2, using the same notes but on a different instrument. Different instruments have different sound qualities, so you can create variety in a track even though you're playing the exact same notes through an entire song, and that's just a very easy way to break up it's something being so common and getting boring in the song. Number 3, dissect or inspect the things that you're playing. Sometimes you may play something, but when you go in deeper, you see that, if I take out this note or I take out that note, it makes it sound better. So don't be afraid to go back to a recording that you've recorded and adjust as necessary in the editing menu. Number 4, tempo choice. The actual speed of the song determines the feel. Currently, there's about, you can ride the 120 or 100 BPM or 90, 80. When you're around in that area, it gives a different feel to the track. A lot of the common songs that are out actually these days, I think, are around 70. But it's a lot more of a vibe, wave feel. But that's not exactly to the liking of what we're trying to do with a happy song, so it's got to be a little faster than that. And number 5, create your own drum kits. I had some sounds in this that I liked, so I have actually saved them as waveforms and are starting to build up my own drum kit so that I can come back to these kicks, snares, hi-hats, or whatever I've made, and I can use them in songs in the future. So thank you so much for watching this episode. Remember, everybody, creativity has no boundaries. Use your God-given gifts and talents to create something fresh today, but make sure you're having fun while you're doing it. See you next time.